Hi everyone, this is Asim here. I hope everybody's okay. As I promised earlier that I will be working on question three for you for your help, and now I have um, got the question from the assignment brief, which is you can see on the screen right now. This is the question three details, and but before I explain this question three, I just wanted to reiterate on the second part of the question two, part two, which we did earlier. And in this question, if you look at that, this might look slightly different to what we have done in the past. So just to make sure that there could be different answers, different solutions to the similar situation, but it depends on how you analyze it. So what I have done in this case is, just to make it easier, what I've done is that I have actually got this, which is the, for instance, I'm just going to restart it just to make you sure that you know what we have done in here. So instead of having the age, what I've done is that I have got the age group. So, and once we have the age group in here, then the next thing we did was the household size, which is, we can actually figure it out where it is. Household size that goes into the values in here. And then similarly, we have had the purchase frequency. Just figure it out where it is. Here we go. And then that also into the values in here. And then once we have that, we can actually get that into value fields, and then we can turn that into an average. And similarly, we can have that the other sum of purchase as well into the values view field, and then we can move that to switch that to average. And then once you have that, you can actually draw the graph on this, which is you click onto that one and then insert, and then you have the pivot chart that will help you in understanding um, that this could be the solution for question two, part two. Okay, and then you have to give the similar explanation as I mentioned in the previous video. So make sure that you explain that how average household size affects the purchase frequency. Okay, so coming back on to the question three, I just wanted to reiterate on the question two, part two, just to make sure that you know there could be different solutions to that. So whichever you feel like, you can actually do that one in here. Coming back onto your question three detail, this time we are going to work onto the two parts of question three, whereas in the first part we have what percentage of car owners spend more than, not 50, more than 500 per transaction. So we want to see that how many customers out of 500, how many of them are spending more than 500 and how many are paying less than 500. And then this is a very simple part of the question. We just have to figure out the numbers. Once we have got the numbers, we can easily draw a donut chart on that. Then the second part is break down this data by income level and city to assess whether higher spending is associated with specific demographic groups. We'll come back onto this one in a short while, but in the first one, we have to work on what percentage of car owners spend more than 500 per transaction, right? So instead of having 500, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that into the 600 one. Okay, so although I have changed the data, but I'm also going to change the value of the transaction as well. So up to 600. So how are we going to do that? If you come back into your data, here you can see that insurance cost. This is your column. In this column, we can see that different people are paying different amounts. So I'm going to put that in the black one. So here we have to figure out that how many customers are paying then more than 600 and how many people are paying less than 600. So to do that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this column only, and then I am going to first I will create a new sheet here just to make sure that we have got question three, part one, and then in here I'm going to copy this data set, and then I'm putting that into here just to be on this data. Okay, this is, remember, question three, part one. And I have to figure out that how many of the customers are paying more than 600 and how many paying less than 600. So I'm going to use if formula here. So remember, equal if, and then bracket start. You have to have the bracket start again, and then you have to say A2 is uh, smaller than 600, right? And then the bracket close, and then you have to have comma, and then if anybody is paying less than 600, that will be classed as less. So we will nominate that person as less payer. Okay, and then you have to have the second part of the if. You start with if and then bracket again, and then here you're going to say that A2 is bigger than equal to 600 bracket close. If anybody is paying equal to 600 or more than 600, that will be classed as over, means over 500. So you can give any names to this one in here. Okay, so once you have that one there, you can actually close this and then you bracket close, press enter. So it is, oh yeah, so I forgot one thing in here, which was the last bracket of that one. So double click. So this last bracket, I completely forgot to put that one in here. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I am going to copy this formula and I'm going to delete it. Once again, I'm going to put this formula exactly opposite to the first value, and I'm going to put this in here, and this is coming as over. So again, just like previous videos, if you see this small dot at the corner and you see this plus sign turn into black one, you double click into this one in here, and then you can see, oh, okay. Okay, so we come back in here. Okay, for some reason, I think over, less, and all that. Okay, right. So I think this formula got angry with me. It's not working when I click onto that one. So I have a solution for that. I can actually double click and then I can drag it down to that one in here. So you see, this has figured out that how many people, if anyone is paying more than 600, that will be tagged as over, and then anybody who's paying less than 600 is tagged as less. Now it is easy for me to count how many in this cell are actually uh, overs and how many are actually less. How I'm going to do that, I'm going to use the formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table here with word over and then lower. Remember this over and lower. Over means over than 600, lower mean less, which is, well, instead of lower, we can do less. Okay, so we can create a table and then we want to figure out that how many have spent more than 600. So we use the formula equal, and then you're going to use the formula count if. Remember guys, there are different counts formula, so we are going to use count if in here. And now in this count if, we have to give the range, and the range is actually C2 to C501. So you have to have colon C2 to C501. Okay, and we have to count what? We have to count how many are over. So you bracket close. Here in this formula, what we are going to achieve is we are going to count from C2 to C501, and our counting is based on over. So how many time over is being repeated here, count it. So once you press this formula, so 352 times over is being repeated. So similarly, I come back into the less one, I use the count if formula, count if, and then again count if, not count if. So we have to have C2 to C501, and then remember this is going to be comma here, and what we are going to count is actually less. So we are counting how many people paying less than 600. So press enter. So you have 148 and 352. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to convert that into a beautiful table. Have a look at that one. We can figure out, and then we can actually create a nice look. And then I'm going back into insert, and then you go into the donut chart. I think donut chart would be the best one to represent the percentage here. So actually 30% people are paying less than 600, and then 70% of people are paying more than 600. So this is an easy description of your question 3 part 1. Okay, I hope this explains that how you're going to do that. And then what we're going to do now is we are going to work on to the second part of the question, which is that break down this data by income level and city. So income level and city, this is what it is, and this is mainly talking about the insurance cost in here, because the insurance cost is actually, we were working out that how many people are paying more than 600 and how many people are paying less than 600. So this data, whatever we have achieved, is going to be split I'm going to be broken down this data by income level and city. So what I'm going to do now is I'm coming back in here, click on anywhere, and then I click on insert and then click on pivot table. Remember, this is your new worksheet. Click onto that one, and here you go. You got a new pivot table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click onto this one. I'm sorry, guys. I think I have some problem with the mouse I'm using right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have question 3, part 2. There we go. So one thing I forgot to explain that to you guys, this is what, again, you have to highlight this. Sorry, I'm just jumping into the previous question. So you have to give the explanation. Don't forget the explanation, because if you forget it, then you're going to lose the marks. So question 3, part 2. So first of all, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have the city. If you click at the cities in here, and then we are going to have the insurance cost, because this is the main column we are working towards. And then you have this values, sum of the insurance cost, and then you have the income level. So we see the income level will go into the columns in here. So we can see that there are different different people are having different income levels. So some are high level earners, some are low level earners, some are medium level earners, earners. And on the basis of that, we are going to have this. So in Birmingham, we can see that 15,778 is the maximum, is the highest cost they are paying. So we can actually convert that into sum. We can convert that into averages as well. So for instance, we can convert that into an average. So look at that one. This is converted into an average. So this is the average spending by high earners, and then the low earners, and then the medium earners. So you can go either way. So once you have that data, you can actually click onto that one, and then you have the pivot table, and then here we go. So you can actually have a bit of a dissection on that. But what you're going to do is now I would prefer to have with a simple numbers there, and I'm going to have again into insert, and then you create a bar chart in there. So for instance, you can have this 2D graph. So hey, you can actually explain this question. So once you have that one, and you can have this, and then you can actually give the bit of an explanation here. Remember, explanation is mandatory. Explanation is mandatory. If you do not explain, that is going to be a bit of a trouble in here. You will lose the mark. So this is your question 3, part 2. Remember, my answers are going to be different to your answers, but it's because the data has been changed and all that. I hope this video is very helpful. And if you got any questions, please bring those questions to me during the seminar sessions. So thank you very much, and see you during the seminars.